and what that did to me. Being right there on the FaceTime with him after the shot rung out, cops were swarming the area, ambulances were swarming the area, students were running, people were screaming, nobody knew what the fuck had happened. All right. And being on the phone with my friend, that also invoked an emotional reaction. That also invoked an emotional reaction out of me. That and a handful of other facts, it made me cry. Right? And I hope that you don't think I am performative or fake or weird or secretly a Trump supporter because I cried. That was my innate human reaction. It wasn't supposed to be telling you what you should think or how you should react. That was just happened to be you watching me and how I reacted. So there you go. That's the breaking news. That's the breaking news. On top of that, additionally, I think it's worth pointing out that we all react to these things in different ways, right? And I'm not expecting anybody to mourn. I'm not. I had the reaction I did. But because of so many facts and more, I'm not placing a burden of an expectance of mourning on the community and whatnot, right? But at the end of the day, my takeaway is we should condemn political violence, and I think what this will do to society is drastic. I am legitimately scared of what the reciprocal effects of this will be on society. It is a bad precedent to set forth. It's okay to just, go shoot people in the face. Even if they're terrible people, I want to make that clear. I think that a lot of people on the right maybe took an affinity to my video. I just want to let you know that I do think that Charlie Kirk was a terrible person. I've made that clear for the last year or so. In fact, the only reason why I knew him personally is because my personal experiences were sitting down with him, telling him why I think that he was in the terribly wrong on so many issues. But I think that it sets forth a dangerous precedent. And I'm so scared of the rebounding effects that this will have on society at large. And that's kind of where I'm at today. What are y'all's thoughts? What are y'all's thoughts? I've been getting pretty. Let me be honest with you guys. I've been getting pretty lost in my head in the last 24 hours, seeing such a visceral backlash to me for my response. And I've been getting in my head, and I don't know. I wanted to ask you guys. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm hanging out with you. You did nothing wrong in my response. Appreciate that. Oh, something else. Something else I want to go over for everybody in the comment section spamming Discord. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. The older millennial is a bold-faced liar. He's a goddamn liar. Okay, so the older millennial made a video on me saying that I was running a poll in my Discord saying Charlie Kirk deserved it. Glowstick, I appreciate you for that heart stage. He will never be able to provide you any proof of that because it's not true. He will never be able to provide you any proof for that because it's not true. In fact, start your screen recordings right now and send this to OM's inbox if you're a fan of his, okay? Because if you're a fan of OM's, that means you want to see him win. I'm gonna help him win if he's right, which he's not. I'm gonna help him win, because you think he's right. Okay, start it now. Older millennial, if you post receipts or proof of me starting a poll saying that Charlie Kirk deserved to die, I will personally send you $10,000. $10,000. I could do PayPal, Venmo. I could do a mailed check. What do you want? I could do a wire transfer. If you could post proof of that, I will send you $10,000. If you could specifically post proof of me starting a poll in my Discord saying that he deserved it. Right? So now for all the OM fanboys, because you think he's telling the truth, go help him win. I don't know why he'd do that. I don't know why the older millennial would post that. I think that he probably saw it on Twitter and then ran with it, if I'm going to be honest. I think that he saw that on Twitter and ran with it. And it probably came from some random account with no profile picture and 500 followers saying, oh, Dean was running a poll in his Discord. And that is his source. So those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. Should I talk to you guys about what your thoughts are? Should we do that for a little bit here? Should we? I think we should. Maybe like a couple people. And then, yeah, I think tomorrow we're going to go back into the debates. We'll be live for like an hour today. Let's go to get that first guest up. We got Dean was here loaded in. What is going on?
Yo, what's up, bro?
Hey, man, I've seen you in a handful of comment sections. So you do not like the fact that I cried yesterday, right?
I do not like it, man. I think that like when I was in the live stream, like when it happened, and I do remember you saying that you drew a very like fine line between the people who celebrated his death. And I'm actually like not a big fan of that because I think a lot of marginalized communities actually celebrate his death, including me.
Okay. Well, I do think that celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk is wrong. I do. And now if you're telling me that, maybe you don't like particularly mourn his death for like a handful of reasons, including like reasons related to how much of a piece of shit he has been, and the harm that he's directed towards marginalized communities, I'm indifferent to that indifference. But I think when it goes from not mourning to literally celebrating, I think that's when we issue in an incredibly dangerous precedent that will ultimately result with more material harm towards marginalized communities. Whenever people get riled up, violent, hateful, and they're seeking retribution, maybe as now we are seeing a lot of people on the right wanting to do, because Charlie Kirk was assassinated and people are celebrating. At the end of the day, marginalized communities will always feel the brunt of that. They will feel the most of that. I mean, even just look at what has already happened today. There has been 3 HBCUs that have been put on lockdown because of retaliatory bomb threats driven from the assassination yesterday. So I ultimately do disagree with celebration.
Well, my stance on that is that I think it's totally acceptable to celebrate someone who is so hateful and his actions and his political beliefs actually did a lot of harm to the people he was talking about. Like you can go back and see the stuff he was saying about Martin Luther King, saying that the civil rights movement.
You and me are going to agree that he was a very hateful person that said a lot of harmful stuff. I was even there in person down in Texas. And a student had gotten on the mic, and the student got on the mic and started asking Charlie Kirk about why he didn't like Kamala Harris. And the student was being respectful. They were trying to have a good conversation. And then Kirk responded to that by getting viscerally upset and like lashing out on this student and on Kamala Harris, and just started talking about how she was black and DEI. And I remember being there in person and hearing that. And in my brain, I was like, holy shit. Like, this guy is just filled with hate. I completely agree with you. I think that Charlie Kirk was an incredibly hateful person and with a bunch of wrong beliefs. And I mean, I hope that'd be clear via like my conversations with him over the last year and wanting to have that conversation. But I still think at the end of the day, like celebrating his assassination, right? Celebrating an act of political violence that traumatized thousands of the students that are there, including my best friend, in front of his wife and 3-year-old daughter is wrong to do. It's wrong. It is. I think it's wrong to celebrate it.
Okay, hold on. I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I think when a person like Charlie Kirk, who innately does more like wrong than he actually did like good in the world, I think it's totally acceptable to celebrate his death. Like I wouldn't for example, I would totally celebrate, I celebrate like Jeffrey Epstein's death because Jeffrey Epstein was a terrible person and he put more bad into the world than good. I think it's totally acceptable in that in those scenarios.
So your view is that if there's somebody that puts more bad into the world than good, if they get like publicly assassinated in front of their family, that's something you think you should celebrate. Can we agree that a lot of people put more bad into the world than good?
Exactly. I do agree that.
Okay. So you would agree with celebrating like the public assassination of a lot of people in society in front of their family. You'd celebrate that. Like if we lined up, like, I don't know, what is it? 20, 30, 40%, maybe even 50% of people in society that put more bad out there than good. If we just line them all up and put them in front of their moms,
that's the thing.
their dads.
Those people don't have like the platform Charlie Kirk did. Like that's the thing. That's like
and celebrate.
I'm telling you right now, those like what you're mentioning, like the 20 people, they did not have the platform that Charlie Kirk did. Charlie Kirk had a massive platform where he spewed hateful rhetoric to millions, and I think he did way more wrong in the long term than he did good. I think that when you're actively spewing hate like that,
I'll let you know I agree with everything you've said about him.
Yeah, I'm not denying
massive
that.
platform
I just think that,
with a terrible impact. I agree. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't disagree that you obviously disagree with him. I'm not discussing. I'm not like just trying to debate that. I'm just saying that he put so much hate into the world and like so much like terrible rhetoric. I think it's totally acceptable to say that it's that you can celebrate his death, especially when he was going after the trans community, black people, obviously. So I think it's totally acceptable. Totally. I think it's like,
what are your thoughts on the consideration that his assassination will only lead towards more radicalization of more people in those alt-right communities that ultimately will cause more harm onto marginalized communities in this country? Like in that sense, you're celebrating an event that wasn't only the public assassination of Charlie Kirk, an admittedly bad person, in front of his family, but also an event in which will ultimately cause more radicalization of so many Americans and more harm against marginalized communities.
well, that's the thing. They were already doing this before with the what's it called again? The death of George Floyd. They were already making memes of George Floyd's death, and I just got to say, like, where was the empathy there? Where was the because the left did not go after the alt-right like that. We protested. We protested for in BLM. But the thing is with the alt-right, I don't think the what's it called again? It's necessarily fair to have empathy for a man who spewed so much hate, right? People say, "Oh."
I think we need to separate these two things. So first and foremost, you're pointing out the hypocrisy in celebrating the death of George Floyd and then condemning the death of Charlie Kirk. Okay? I think that all violence is wrong. I think that we should condemn the death of George Floyd, and that was absolutely terrible. And anybody that would celebrate the death of George Floyd, then condemn the death of Charlie Kirk, is a goddamn hypocrite. Okay? Right? But I'm talking to you. Right? I'm not talking to those people. If they're listening and you celebrated George Floyd's death, but you condemned that of Charlie Kirk, you're a goddamn hypocrite. But in reference to my conversation with you, I feel like now we're at a point where you've set up the two choices of either celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk or like mourning and feeling empathetic towards the death of Charlie Kirk. My position, as I've stated to you as well as on my videos and so on and so forth, is that I'm saddened by the assassination, and I literally cried on my live yesterday for the reasons that I've listed on this live as well as in the video that I post. But I will say, if, you're out there and you're not mourning the fact that Charlie Kirk died, I think that we all have complex emotional reactions to different circumstances. and I am indifferent to your indifference. I'm indifferent to your indifference, right? But
Yeah.
what you're positing isn't mere indifference. It is the active celebration of such.
I don't know. It's just like my standpoint on this. I was in a live when you were crying, right? And so when I saw that, I was initially like very like, because I'm like I liked watching your content, man. Like you have very good beliefs. You know, we both got Dean in our names, so it's honestly like I was like very like surprised to see that you were crying, knowing like you literally sat down and spoke with this man, and you know how terrible this man is,
Yeah.
right? And I watched the video. I know you weren't like like the main reason you weren't crying because of his death was mainly because of his kids and like
Listen,
like
listen. Like
yeah.
what like I've already like repeated. I was saddened by it. I think that political violence is wrong. I think that it makes the country worse. But like specifically the reasons why I gave that very raw emotional reaction of tears, that was from the fact that his family had to watch that. That was from the fact that his little girl had to watch that. It was just the fact that it was such an incredibly violent and gory death, and I am not desensitized to gore. I'm incredibly sensitive to gore.
I completely I can understand that. I can
And the
understand
fact that my best friend was there, man, you know, like shit.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's in here. He probably is. You know, I'm gonna out him a little bit.
I definitely feel for you on that level.
Yeah, like
but it's
listen,
just like
just real quick. I'll be super duper quick. I'm gonna out him a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
my buddy Parker, he's a sensitive guy, right? And so am I, right? But he's a sensitive guy. And when he was like FaceTiming me, like actively running away and screaming because he thought that there was like a shooter on campus and they were about to unload on the crowd, that was like, that was hard. It had an insane psychological effect on me. And that compared with the other facts ultimately resulted in my tears. It did.
Yeah.
And I hope that you could understand that. And, you know, other critiques that I've seen surrounding the event are, well, Dean, like, why would you have tears for this? But, like, not for the children in Palestine. I have cried on my life for the children in Palestine.
I've seen that before. I don't like the critique of you. I don't like the critique of you.
I cried on my life for the children in Palestine. I am just simply not desensitized to violence. I'm not desensitized to gore. I'm not desensitized to this shit. I'm not at all. And I have this unique sense of empathy, and I care. And that empathy is probably something that led to me doing why I do what I do now. But ultimately speaking, you know, like I condemn it. I did cry for the reasons that we just spoke about, but I'm not going to condemn you for your indifference. I think that we all have complex emotional responses to these things. If you're not mourning or you are indifferent, I don't condemn you, right? I don't.
Yeah. I just like, it just seems to me that like his beliefs ultimately, like he ultimately caused so many like for the people in Palestine specifically, like his beliefs, like he was like behind that genocide, which I am not a fan of. That was terrible. If you're behind like the genocide in Gaza, that's disgusting. And I think he pushed for it, right? And like his main guy, Donald Trump, that's the main person he was pushed for, which is also a fascist. And I'm not okay with that. And like he had such like the platform he had, in which like the amount of like stuff he spewed, it's just I don't know, it just like gets me like so angry to see like people would try to say you have to have empathy for someone who, you know, was like behind these many things, you know. It's just like,
well, listen, I'll repeat my stance there about like the mourning for the individual. I think once again we all have complex we have complex thought processes. We look at these things and we process them differently. If your complex thought processes has driven you to the conclusion where you are not actively mourning the death of Charlie Kirk, I'm not judging you. I'm not. Yeah. Right? I'm not. Right? What I do condemn though is the celebration of the violence. And like I said, I asked you a question about this earlier, and I want to ask you it again. Is I believe that this will make things significantly worse in this country. I think that
Yeah.
this is going to radicalize so many individuals on the right and radicalize so many individuals further right. And I think that ultimately marginalized communities are going to experience the brunt of this, as I've repeated a handful of times before. And how do you feel about the fact that in celebrating this act of political violence, the assassination, ultimately, in turn, what you're doing is celebrating an event that will ultimately lead towards, the further mistreatment and further violence and hate crimes directed disproportionately towards marginalized communities?
Well, I mean, I think my stance on that is that we as like I'm a black man myself. I think that we shouldn't have to be afraid of the radicalized right, and we should have the right to actually be happy about the people who were who were trying to oppress us, trying to take these rights away from us, and we should have the right to we shouldn't be like afraid to actually to be happy about one less bad person trying to do stuff to us in the world away. So I don't think it's necessarily like yes, I understand that it's gonna cause so much more divide. It's going to like radicalize the right so much more. But at the same time, I think it's also like it's to us that we actually understand that we can also stand up against this too.
Okay, so your argument is because like Charlie Kirk was a bad person that disseminated a bunch of hateful rhetoric towards marginalized communities, that members of marginalized communities, it's like seemingly permissible for members of marginalized communities to like celebrate and be happy about his assassination, right? Is that your position?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, here's what I'd say. I think that there is a bunch of fucking bigots in this world, and the correct way to combat bigotry is not to shoot them in the face with a sniper in front of their family. And I think in being happy or in celebrating this instance, it is by proxy socially promoting that this is the correct way to do it. And I just simply don't think it is.
All right. Well, listen, I don't know. I think I don't know. It's really hard for me to to get my feelings through on this. You know what I mean? It's like,
Bro, it literally happened
I,
yesterday. It literally happened yesterday, man. Like, we're all still like discovering our feelings on
I'm
this.
like I'm like still thinking about it. I was really in your stream watching it as it was happening. Like that's like how I literally got like the first time I was hearing it from you. Like it was from you. And so like I was just like I was processing like understand like, man, this is definitely something bad. I do feel for his kids. And like even though I think I really don't think that I'm not like empathetic towards his wife, obviously, because I think that for you to choose someone also that hateful, you're also in the wrong, but still losing a husband is terrible.
Right. Like, listen, I could agree, right? Like her choosing to be with like somebody that's like a bad person is wrong. Like you shouldn't choose to be with like bad people. Right. But I think even that scenario, like, I don't think like the punishment for the wrongness is watching their public execution,
Yeah.
Like
It's just Yeah. I understand. I don't know. I think my whole thought on this is that I think that him losing his life was obviously, I think losing someone's life is bad, but when you do so much wrong like he did, and you have the amount of platform that he did specifically, I think that it's almost like, what's it called again? It's you'll just get what's coming to you eventually. And I don't know, like I don't know if that's the right thing to say currently. It's just what it seems like to me at the current moment.
I don't know. When I hear that, there's like other things that I also think about. There's so many things that I'm thinking about here. So obviously, like I disagree there. Like I don't think that his assassination was warranted. So for like you, then everybody in the chat saying it was, like that amounts to the claim that it was deserved. Okay.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. I think that in justifying this and saying that it was deserved, I completely disagree. Now, just evaluating your perspective of saying that, he got what come to him, this was deserved. like, where do your considerations like lie and align when thinking about like maybe like the students on campus that had to go through, the event of maybe thinking they were going through a mass shooting where they might be next, such as my friend Parker did, and the trauma that can be taken away from that, or like his kid having to witness that, etc. Like all of these facts are entailed from his assassination. And I think that these give us like more reason to believe that, like you're wrong in saying that this assassination was justified.
That's also a lot of stuff I'm not really very sure on, because no one deserves to see, like, no one, like, those people were like there to see debates, and they obviously didn't come to see his assassination, which I also feel very bad about for them.
All right. I'd just like to reiterate my position. My position is that, like, I condemn that shit. I had an emotional reaction. If you're indifferent, if you're not mourning, that's fine. Like, I mean, I think that we're all processing these things differently. And I'm not going to condemn you for not being in mourning, right? But yeah. I think when it kind of gets to that position of saying it was deserved, of saying that it was just, of saying that it should have happened, that's not fine. All right, I think that's wrong.
Yeah. Listen, man, I gotta go. I just got flagged, but I'm like, thank you for like letting me talk about this. It was really nice speaking to you.
Yeah.
Hope you have a good one.
Yeah, you too. You too. All right, guys. Wow. We're having some interesting dialogue on the stream today. Listen, like where I'm at right now is like, I don't know if I could agree that like public assassinations are okay. I just don't know if I could agree that like they're just deserved, right? Like I wish the conversations that we're having right now are like between if we should or shouldn't mourn, right? But like they're not there. They're like literally on if it was deserved or not, justified or not, should we celebrate or not? Do you guys know what I mean? Like I genuinely do. I genuinely do want to run a poll in the chat. I genuinely do want to run a poll in the chat. We're going to go ahead and do that now. And this poll is hopefully going to determine how you guys think it feel. I mean, you guys know how I feel. I condemn political violence. I condemn what happened to Kirk. I don't think it should have. I'm just seeing like so many people in the chat saying otherwise. I actually don't know if I'm going to do that poll. I'm kind of scared of the outcome. I don't think I'm going to do that poll. I'm kind of scared of the outcome. Okay. All right. We'll have another conversation here. We'll have another conversation here. Then after this one, I'm probably going to hop off. It's going to get that next guest up here. Go ahead and hop in that queue if you want to come up here and have a conversation. We got Good Times joining.
Hi there. I just see you cry. I just wanted to say that I think that it's especially telling that there are so many people on this live and otherwise that want to celebrate the straight up murder of someone with different opinions. Moreover, I think that it is a lopsided result that on the right, who are mostly Christians or, generally more Christian than the left, they don't seem to celebrate murders as much. And I wonder why that is. I think that having Christ in our lives
I,
Give
I,
us something.
I see. I'm going to be honest, man. I see a lot of people on the right celebrating murder all the time. I think a big example would be the celebration in support of the state of Israel and what we've seen Israel do to the innocent Palestinians, and the riling around support for those actions. I mean, literally signing the missiles that Israel's dropping on the schools with 5-year-old girls in them. Then you get the video of the 5-year-old girl literally dying by burning to death. Okay, like I think that there is a celebration of those actions, and I completely think that's wrong.
Without a doubt, murders are wrong, but the people that are celebrating the murders in Israel do not represent the majority of Christian Republicans. What I'm trying to say is that at least most recently, for the past few
Wait,
years,
your representatives don't represent you?
what I'm trying to say is at least for the past few years, the most of the assassinations have been leftist violence, and most of those assassinations have been done with people without a belief in Christ. And I'm just saying, it seems like the lack of Christ or belief in Christ is causing something else to fill that gap, which is an internal anger or resentment. And I feel that having Christ at least helps us center ourselves and deal with, different opinions that people on the left have.
I don't think that there's going to be one solution towards fixing resentment. I think I see so many violent Christians all of the time. I mean, even in the Bible, 1 Samuel 15:3, we see that genocide's not only celebrated but commanded by the all-good God. Now, I think that there's a lot of interpretations of Christianity that can be healthy, a lot of interpretations of Christianity that can literally help people live better lives. And I see it all the time, even myself in my interpersonal life. But to act as if religion and Christ are going to be the end-all fix-all to stop violence and to stop the celebration of that in which is immoral is false. As I see the religion in many circumstances causing what is immoral. I appreciate you for your thoughts, though. Interesting input. I mean, I disagree with that. I don't think that Christianity is going to be the one boot fits all for solving the immoral. I think I see Christianity cause so much immoral all of the time. Welcome in, Athena. How we doing?
Hey, you. I'm okay. What about you?
I'm doing good. Doing better. I'm doing all right. I was planning on taking the day off, but now I'm here. We're having conversations.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah. I think I think maybe the first question I wanted to ask you is, when has violence not been normal for marginalized people in the West?
I think that violence has always been normal for marginalized people in the West. I mean, the country
So
was founded on slavery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the idea that things are going to get worse or people are going to get scapegoated I don't think it's like a legitimate claim, because it's going to happen anyways, regardless of how people react to anything, right? Like things are going to continue getting worse, even if a person, it's kind of respectability politics to say that a person has to continue being nice to minimize the harm that they're subjected to, because regardless of if a person is nice or not, they're still going to be subjected to harm within a system that is rooted in their dehumanization.
Well, I mean, point number one, to respond to what you first said, saying, well, like, this violence towards marginalized communities has been normal, is normal today, and will continue to be normal. Well, I just don't think that this changes my mind on the fact that I think that things will get significantly worse than they already are. And I think that's very damaging, very wrong, and very bad, considering how normal they already are. Now to your second point, saying to be nice. Well, I mean, my stance is that, if you're indifferent, if you're not mourning, I'm not going to condemn you, right? I don't think it's nice to be indifferent, and I don't condemn it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think what I do disagree with is like the active celebration or justification.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you watched my live, because I did host a live talking about how I think I was not going to mourn. Like, so I do feel bad for the children, of course. I don't, I think my empathy is extended towards the children. I don't think any child should view their parent being unalived in front of them, or anybody being unalived in front of them. I do extend also empathy, definitely, for the people who were there, who were scared. Especially Parker. I mean, I care about him definitely, right? Or any other person, even if I didn't know them. I think the only issue is that my empathy is not going to extend, or sympathy is not going to extend to a person like Charlie Kirk, whose ideology is rooted in challenging the existence and the humanity of people who look like me, right? But just because I'm going to say I'm indifferent to him, it doesn't mean that I would sit here and condemn people who celebrate him either.
Okay.
Because I think like, that's where we're different, right? Because I think like, I think it is not an inhumane thing for Black and brown people to maybe feel a sense of relief when they see that a voice of division that routinely upheld their dehumanization and was violent towards them fall silent. And I don't necessarily think that, like, I myself would not do it, right? I would not do it. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and tone police, for example, a person who maybe feels relief because now there's,
well, I think
there's like a,
I think like
less of a racist person out there.
I think like
after
relief. I think that relief that is being experienced by some people is relief rooted in a response from the fact that there was an actor that was disseminating very hateful, racist rhetoric that is now no longer disseminating hateful, racist rhetoric, right? It is the cessation of the dissemination of hateful rhetoric. And I don't think that in itself is identical to like relief that he got fucking shot in the neck and had blood pour everywhere, right? And I think what I've seen, you know, like for instance, the conversation I was having with the last guest is literally like not just like the relief and a cessation of like racist rhetoric from a single actor, but like rather like the celebration of the assassination in itself, right? And
Yeah, I get what you mean, right? I'm not going to sit here and condone violence, right? But at the same time, let's say, for example, if a David Duke were to be unalived or were to die tomorrow, am I going to be surprised that people are going to celebrate David Duke? Am I going to be surprised that people are going to be happy that, let's say, for example, Netanyahu is not here, or that some other horrific person is not here, right? Like Charlie Kirk has radicalized millions of fascists at this point. And these fascists are going to continue subjecting marginalized people to horrendous levels of violence, right? And whether a person celebrates it or not, that violence is still going to come. And so I think like we need to stop weaponizing the potentiality of marginalized people being subjected to more violence in order to tone police marginalized people from maybe expressing themselves, because they are going to be subjected to violence either way. Whether they celebrate it, whether they don't celebrate it, that violence is going to come either way because they exist, right? But I think like, I don't think Black and brown people should be condemned for refusing to mourn the loss of anyone who built power on our suffering. Because again, our dignity demands that we like recognize justice even in our moments of celebration. And I do think that sometimes it could be just, I don't know, it could be human. It's a natural human reaction to feel like, yeah, the person who has been dehumanizing me, the person who has made a whole platform off of upholding my marginalization is not here anymore. And like, I don't condone that, right? But I'm not going to get angry over, let's say, a person who condones that or who says like, I don't care, I'm okay, I will celebrate it. Because at the end of the day, Black newborns being 3 times more likely to die during childbirth than white newborns is violence. Black women being unalived 5 times more likely than white women is violence. The very system that Black and brown people live within is inherently violent and is violent on a daily basis that people are going through. So I feel like even the optics of it, I'm going to be honest, like for me, the optics of like all these different groups of people like mourning or crying over a person like Charlie Kirk. And like, I mean, you've known me, so I'm just going to be honest with you, right? Like, because I've always been like very honest with you. I think like, even though you have explained, of course, the reasoning behind why you were emotional, which I think is 100% valid. You explained that it had to do with mourning the children and it had to do with how you were reacting towards Parker. But the optics of it is kind of like, oh, this person, it looked like people are mourning the death of Charlie Kirk. And I think like, I don't know. I mean, you can be honest with me, right? We can have this like dialogue, but I don't know. It kind of feels like, oh, wait, why are all these people mourning the death of somebody who doesn't see me as human, right? That's how it came off as. Like, why are all these people mourning or crying over a person who does not think that I deserve to exist? I guess. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think that, like, first on the broad level, I just have like this core value, and I don't know if I'll be able to change it. I just don't like people getting shot in the neck and dying. That is like the core value, man. It's just, I don't like that. I don't like it at all. It's worse when it's in front of their family, and even worse when it's then surrounded by a crowd of like, thousands of students. Not a fan of that. And I think, with all the other facts that I shared with, what Parker had undergone, being there, then me being on FaceTime with him, and having the family watch that was what elicited that reaction of tears from me. I was very overwhelmed with all these facts coming in. And it was my natural human reaction. I don't know, like right when it happened and he was declared dead and I watched the video up close of him dying, my natural human reaction was to cry. And I hope that like this isn't propagating the message or the image to you or to anybody else that like I don't care about marginalized communities, or I don't recognize that Charlie Kirk was a POS, right? The fact of the matter is, I'm not desensitized to violence. I'm not desensitized to gore, and these things made me emotional. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I understand where you're coming from, right? So, like, when you explained it, I understood where you were coming from, 100%, right? And that's why I'm saying that it is valid what you felt like. But I'm, from my perspective, right? It almost feels like when I see people who look like me perish, and their blood is still soaking the earth, I see no headlines.
Oh, you cut out.
The lives of people who look like me.
Athena, you're cutting out.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Okay, so as if like the life of people who look like me is worth less than the dust that covers their graves, right? And then when I see all of a sudden people mourn a person like Charlie Kirk or even cry over him, it kind of reminds me of like this cruel imbalance, right? And that the world declares without words that some lives are worthy of mourning, while other lives are deemed ungrievable. And so in that very act, our humanity is being challenged again, because when people who look like me die, when Sonia Massey was dying, when Tamir Rice was dying, when George Floyd or Sandra Bland or countless people who look like me.
You cut out at "look like me." You're back now. You might be gone again.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Okay, I fixed it. So when countless people who look like me are dying, I don't see this level of empathy, right? I don't see this level of grace. I don't see this level of compassion or sympathy. I don't see people mourning the death of people who look like me. And I feel like that is the deepest violence that is underestimated. Like, the deepest violence isn't always like a pew pew, like a gun or a knee on the neck, right? It's the silence that follows when my people die. It's the fact that when people like me who look like me die, there's just a shrug, and people say, "Oh, that's just unfortunate," as if my life and the lives of other people who look like me were never meant to be grieved. And that silence tells me plain as day that if I were to die, that's how the world would react to my death. That I would also end up just becoming a hashtag. I would also end up just, I don't know, just disappearing. The world would just shrug. "Oh, well, Athena's dead. So it's unfortunate. It's just sad that she died, but let's just move on." Because at the end of the day, to everybody, I'm just a Black person who doesn't deserve to be grieved. But then when a man like Charlie Kirk is passing away, and suddenly everybody remembers to like how to cry. And I feel like the very act of people remembering how to cry for a person like Charlie Kirk, but not remembering how to cry for a person who looks like me or a person who's marginalized, that within itself is violence. Like, that violence of a system that teaches us that our death, that my death is normal, but his death is a tragedy, that when it's his death, people think about his family, about all the other, like the void that he's going to leave behind. But people who look like me, when we die, people don't think about the void that we leave behind. And if that doesn't enrage people, then I feel like they've already accepted a world that has decided whose lives are human and whose isn't. And that's the issue that I had. Like, when I've seen all these people like crying, even though you said like, yes, you weren't crying for that reason, you were crying for his children, it just comes off as that way.
Well, I think, all that I can do in this circumstance is speak for myself. That's kind of why I started the live, to have these conversations about maybe some of like the public's reaction to what I've said and how I've responded. Like with me crying in response to Kirk's death, I think I had a natural psychological reaction to shocking and unexpected news about somebody that I've met and had conversations with in real life, regardless of the fact that I did not like them and they were a bad person. Getting shot in the neck and dying in front of their family, and then my friend, right? Parker also experiencing that and running away. Now, to your other statements surrounding how, well, it is the case that so many individuals like don't mourn when people that look like you die. Like, point number one, if you died, I would bawl my goddamn eyes out. Okay, Athena.
That's because we know each other.
Point number two, I think that this is more so of a call for the desensitization of violence as directed towards members of marginalized communities. More so a call of the desensitization of violence, directed towards people in the Congo or people in Palestine. And, I have bawled out my eyes out on live before for Palestinians. I would bawl my eyes out on live if you died. And I think that more individuals should be more aware and more caring about global violence, especially as directed towards members of marginalized communities. However, I don't think that this fact in of itself would arguably detail that my natural psychological reaction was somehow wrong, in bad taste, or unwarranted surrounding the circumstances. You know, it's like when I truly think about the reason why I had that reaction, as I detailed in the video that I posted, and inside of the conversation I'm having with you right now, that just kind of came from my sensitivity to gore, my sensitivity to violence, the fact that this is somebody that I met in person, and it was a natural human reaction that I could not control. I couldn't control it. I couldn't control it. And so I don't think that what you're describing would warrant maybe the condemnation of that natural psychological reaction that I had. But like rather an advocation for more sight, for more vision, for more visibility, and more of a general care in society as a whole of the global violence directed towards so many humans every single day. Just like what we saw happen to Kirk in that video when he had the jugular rip open, blood gushing out, and died. You know, it's like I genuinely wish that everybody that watched that video and had this adverse reaction, maybe similar to what I did, would turn around and recognize that that is exactly what fucking happens to children in school, okay? In fact, that is exactly what happened to one child that died at an elementary school in Denver, literally 3 hours after Charlie Kirk was shot. I wish that more people would take that gut reaction, turn around and apply it to what is happening to Palestinians, what is happening to people in the Congo, what is happening to people in Sudan, right? And be more mindful of that and care more. And that's where I fall.
Okay, can I address 2 points to what you said? Maybe we need to be asking then the question as to why maybe people have that like psychological reaction to people like Charlie Kirk, right? Because like why people are more inclined to have that reaction to him than they are inclined to have that reaction to like, let's say, Black and brown people. Because like that level of empathy, not only from you, by the way, it's just when I was going through different lives, I kept seeing on all forms of social media that level of gut, like visceral gut reaction towards a person like him. Like people were literally crying their eyes out on live. Not on live only, but on videos, like on in tweets and all those different things, right? And I was wondering why people had that reaction, that visceral reaction to him, but not that visceral reaction to, let's say, a Tamir Rice, for example, right? And the second point that I had was, yes, you can't control your tears, right? Sometimes when the tears come out, they just come out. You can't control them at all. I think what, to me, kind of like, maybe was a bit jarring was afterwards saying like, oh, if people like don't condemn this or condone this or you're celebrating this or you react in a certain way, that you should cut ties with me, or that like this basically shaming people into reacting with empathy and compassion towards Charlie Kirk, when I don't think any marginalized person should be shamed for how they decided to process his death. I don't think that a person who sits there and maybe says, oh, thank God that this person is not there anymore, because maybe they were sick and tired of this guy every time he opened his lips, dehumanizing them. I don't think that they need to be labeled as the bad guy. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones who understand how violent the rhetoric that he espouses is. And so they should not be shamed for it. So maybe you can't control your tears 100%, yeah. But maybe the things that were said afterwards did come off as a bit jarring, because I was like, oh, wait. So if I don't mourn him, does that mean I'm a bad person? And it kind of felt like, in general, gaslighting.
What I said wasn't like, if you don't mourn him, then you're a bad person. It's more so if you like celebrate it, like celebrate literally what happened to him, celebrate the event, celebrate the assassination, celebrate the political violence. Then I think that's condemnable. Now, about like, as I've already repeated a handful of times on live, I think if there's like a lack of mourning, Like, I'm not gonna lie. If there's somebody that's not like mourning Charlie Kirk's death, I think that we all have like different complex psychosocial responses to things that happen in the world around us. If you don't mourn it, I mean, like, you know, I'm not gonna judge you. So I agree with you there. Like, I don't think that we should be shaming individuals for like not mourning this, for not maybe mourning this event for like around a billion reasons. Where my head is at, you know, isn't in like advocating for the shaming of individuals for like mourning or not mourning, but like rather like, as I said, like the literal celebration of the assassination. You know, that's where I'm at. It doesn't surround the mourning or the not mourning. It is the literal celebration of the event. And like that is what I condemn. You know, it's like, because the celebration kind of goes back around to like to the deservance and it being justified. And I just don't think that like these events can be rightfully deserved and celebrated in a world where I think if you know, where I don't think that we should have political violence such as this.
But everything is political violence. I think that's what people don't understand. Like existing as the.
I don't think we should.
No, I understand that. Yeah, I know that you don't think we should have political violence, but I'm saying existing as a black person in a white supremacist society is political violence within itself. Like the day-to-day lives of a black person is political violence within itself. And I feel like that is what people are not getting. When you are marginalized in a society, your very existence on a day-to-day basis, when you are confronted with the fact that you're having your humanity challenged, since the time you're a child, like literally black newborns are being subjected to fatal systemic violence before they even know their own name, right? So that within itself is violence and it is political. So like, I don't even think like people like, I don't even think like a marginalized person should be even condemned for how they react to it, right? So even if they sit here and say, well, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna celebrate this shit, or yeah, hell yeah. Like, I don't think people need to be condemned for that, especially if a person is a marginalized person who was directly impacted by his rhetoric. And by the way, I'm not missing the point. I just disagree with him. Like, it's perfectly fine. Like, I'm not defensive. You don't have to be defensive either. Like, I'm not coming from like a bad intention. I don't think you're coming from a bad intention either. I know you're not coming from like bad intentions, right? So, well, my point is the very act of even condemning people and shaming them for how they're feeling, I think that within itself is what I felt was dehumanizing in a way, because people do have a right. If they feel like they want to celebrate it, they do have a right, and they shouldn't be shamed, especially not by a white person. Because at the end of the day, a white person will never, ever, regardless of how much you deconstruct your racism, regardless of how much you're a liberal or a leftist, you will never, ever be able to empathize and understand the level of violence that black and brown people face. And I don't think that a white person has the moral high ground to be saying, this is to be condemned and this is not to be condemned, because you just don't understand it, right? So I'm not excusing unaliving, by the way. I just wanted to say, I don't condemn it. I mean, I condemn it. I don't condone it, right? I'm not going to sit here and celebrate. Even on my lives, I clearly said I won't celebrate it. But at the end of the day, if a black person comes to me and celebrates it, I'm not going to condemn them. And I'm black. And I don't understand why white people always feel entitled to tell black and brown people how we should feel and how we should react to harm caused to us. Because like, you're like, Dean, you're a white cishet man. At the end of the day, the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk was spreading does not impact you. Like, you're not directly gonna be harmed by it or impacted by it. So I don't get why white people in general feel like they are entitled to tell a black or brown person how they should be reacting to their own oppressor or to their own dehumanizer.
Well, I mean, I think in the sense of like me saying that like you probably shouldn't react in such a way as to like like literally go out and like celebrate like the glorification of political violence and somebody dying by getting shot in the neck in front of their family. I get like the aspect of this where, you know, we're talking about the fact that individuals are going to feel some level of relief because we had a proponent of, you know, like very hateful rhetoric in which materialized into harm. And now stop that hateful rhetoric materializing into harm. I get why that's going to make individuals feel relief. Okay. Just that rhetoric ceasing. Okay. That fact on its own, I understand that. I do. I understand that. Rhetoric existing that perpetuates oppression to rhetoric not existing that perpetuates oppression. That might usher in some sense of relief. Okay. But I think once again, where like my issue lies, and I feel like we've been over this a couple times, isn't there. My issue is more so within, like, as we've already talked about a handful of times, the celebration of the point of someone going from alive to dead in a violent manner in front of their family and 1,000 people. Like I don't know. Maybe like I'm really trying here. I swear to God, I'm really trying here. And once again, where I set is at the fact, you know, I had the reaction I did. If you're out there and, you know, you're not feeling like super sad, okay, like whatever. I'm not gonna judge you. But it's more so within like the glorification and the justification of the act of political execution. I can't agree with that. I can't.
Yeah,
like,
it's
maybe
okay.
Maybe this is just like
this is
a disagreement.
A blind spot. A disagreement, a blind spot, and like I don't think a white person can get it. Like when you said like you understand the violence that his rhetoric could cause, a white person is never going to get that. And I think like that is a blind spot that as a white person, you would like never ever be able to actually fully understand. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine, right? You live within a society where you don't have to think about those things, right? You live within a society that centers you, that caters to you. You don't have to think about how you're going to be subjected to that level of violence. So no, I don't think white people get it. I don't think white people will ever be able to get it. I don't think white people understand what it feels like to, on a day-to-day basis, see people who look like you die in the most brutal manner and the whole world just shrugging. I don't think white people get the fact that when you go to school, you are more likely to be suspended or expelled for simply existing within a black body, and literally the whole world views you as a criminal or as if something is wrong with you or as if you have to make yourself a little bit smaller because you shouldn't even be here in the first place. You should be grateful to be alive in the first place, right? I don't think people get that. You do not get that. Nobody gets that. If you are not black, you don't live life as a black person, you do not get that, right? And so even if a person, which I know you have been doing the work, I know that you have been deconstructing like racism and you have been educating yourself, we've had multiple conversations, but at the end of the day, you are still a cishet white man living within the US, within a society that caters to you specifically. Right? So you will never, ever be able to actually get the violence that black people are being subjected to on a regular basis. And the only issue that I have here is if a person can never, ever fully grasp and comprehend and understand what it feels like to be marginalized, why do they think they have a right to condemn the marginalized and how they react and also determine how the marginalized should be reacting?
Well,
like,
I think all that I'm saying here, and like this is the position, is that I personally like think it's wrong to uplift, celebrate, and like celebrate, you know, like the public execution that we saw, with all the surrounding facts. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I personally, I'm not going to celebrate that. You know, maybe I don't think that people should celebrate it. I think that, you know, political violence like this is just going to lead to more harm and it's bad, and that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at, Athena. And I maybe I could benefit from having a conversation with you off live or something to talk about this more. But
Yeah, let's
like
have a
ultimately,
call off.
like I just I personally can't celebrate it. I can't.
Yeah, but like I'll tell you how like crazy like my day was, right? I had random like Zionists come up on my panel and call me evil. I had random white people who were bigoted, who said slurs at the same time calling me evil and saying that I was apathetic. Like the amount of and I was not even saying I was condoning it, right? I didn't even say that. I even had people who threatened me, who told me that I was next, who gave me death threats in my DMs and also in my chat, right? But the amount of people who felt like they had the audacity, the gall, the gumption to tell me how I should feel, how I should react, how I should make myself smaller to make them comfortable. And I feel like in 2025, and like I'm in my 20s, right? I've reached an age where I don't think that I have to minimize myself for the comfort of especially white people. And I don't think any black people need to be doing that. And if condoning or celebrating the death of a white teen nationalist makes a white person uncomfortable, then so be it. I don't think black people need to make themselves smaller. And it's perfectly fine for a white person to feel discomfort because as a black person, we feel discomfort 24/7. So if a person feels discomfort for like a fraction of a day when they see this, then fine. They can feel that discomfort.
Okay. Well, I mean, as I've repeated, once again, like if you're indifferent to this, if you don't like have like some sense of like sadness, like I don't care. I think that we all like process these things differently. We all think differently. I mean, I made my thoughts clear. If somebody out there isn't willing to give their thought, like their sympathies, etc. If somebody isn't sympathetic, I don't care. I'm not gonna lie. I don't care if somebody isn't sympathetic. And I feel like maybe I just don't know how to continue the conversation from here. I completely agree that this dude was a massive piece of shit. I debated him on multiple circumstances to tell him how big of a piece of shit he is. But when I look at what happened, when I consider all the facts, when I consider the family, when I consider the my friend there running away, it's just like I can't personally be happy with that. I gotta personally condemn that, and that's where I'm at right now. I can't be happy.
Can I ask you one more question before I drop? Yeah, because I feel like, yeah. Do you condemn every soldier, every person who works at a prison, or every cop?
Do I condemn every cop? I mean, I condemn all violence. So, I mean...
No, yeah, but do you condemn every soldier, every prison, every cop?
Well, I mean, I think I could probably be a little bit more educated on this. Like, I'm sure that, you would have a position that would entail, like, every soldier, every cop, every person, like, under your view would be, like, perpetuating violence. I think what I could say is, like, I think that a lot of soldiers, a lot of cops can be violent and do bad things, and I condemn that because I condemn all violence. Like if a soldier or a cop does something that is violent, then I fucking condemn it.
All soldiers, all cops, all prisons participate in political violence because the very entity of the military is rooted in subjecting other people to violence under the guise of fighting for freedom. All prisons also engage in political violence and all cops engage in political violence. So if people are not sitting here condemning all soldiers, all prisons, all cops, then they're not being consistent, in my opinion, because that also perpetuates political violence.
Okay, yeah, I'm just not familiar with the position, if that makes any sense. Like from my perspective, I mean, I'll tell you about my perspective. Like, I think that like a lot of soldiers and a lot of cops can do very bad, violent things that need to be condemned. But like for instance, like a position that would entail that, you know, like the 18-year-olds going to MEPS and taking their oath are perpetuating violence. I'm not sure
Yes, they are.
on that or not. I'm just,
They are, because the very institution is a violent institution. Would you condemn a person who celebrates their rapist going to jail?
would I condemn a person that would celebrate their rapist going to jail? No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. What? Dude, if you know, the person that did things to me were to go to jail, I would celebrate that 110%. But listen,
Okay.
I appreciate you for the
Thank you
conversation.
very much.
I,
Yeah.
I appreciate you for the conversation, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. You too, Dean. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if the person that did that shit to me went to jail, oh my God, I would go, I would go grab a bottle. I would go grab a bottle of the person that did that. To me, if I went to jail, to me, if I went to jail, I would celebrate it if the person that did that to me went to jail. There you go. There's the right wording. Okay. All right. Well, for the 50,000 people that are in here, appreciate you for pulling through. Ken, and I appreciate you for the future encounter. You know, once again, like kind of where I'm at is Creator City. I appreciate you for the galaxy. I think that, you know, what happened was wrong. God, man, you know, it was hard to watch that video. It elicited, in my mind, you know, a human response from me, and I think that shit was wrong. But once again, from where I stand, you know, like if you hold a sense of indifference, or if you hold, you know, so on and so forth, not a sense of indifference. If you hold a sense of indifference, you know, like I'm not going to judge you. I think that, you know, we all process these things differently, and that should be expected. But like me, you know, like I thought that was bad. I think that political violence is wrong. I don't think it's the adequate or proper way to push for our country to be better. I think that this is inevitably going to radicalize so many individuals and push them further to the right. Just cause so much more violence. But that's where I'm at. You know? And for everybody in the chat saying she's right, he's right, you know, I think that there's going to be good points all around. You know, like for instance, like something that Athena brought up there that I think is true is how there's a lot of people that are looking at what happened to Kirk and saying like, this is really bad. You know, this is so condemnable. I'm really upset. But then like not turning around and giving that same energy to the victims of school shootings. And I think that's hypocritical, you know? And maybe something that I brought up earlier too. People that are looking at what happened to Kirk and being like, this is super bad. This is very, very bad. But then, you know, a couple years back, they were literally celebrating the murder of George Floyd. That's super fucking hypocritical, right? That was a point that she made that was so fucking true. So, I mean, I don't think it's like a she's right, he's right scenario. I think that there's points that I made and points that she made that were correct. But, you know, ultimately from where I stand, I just think that political violence is bad. And that's what I think. That's my opinion. It's my opinion. So. All right. All right, Creator City, I appreciate you for the galaxy. Okay. All right, guys. So I think at this point, I said I was going to be on for maybe 30 minutes or so. It's now been over an hour. I think I'm going to go get some dinner. Get some dinner. Now, I don't know when I'll be back. I'll probably be back tomorrow. We'll probably do like a full stream tomorrow. We could talk about these things a little bit more in depth. You know, I'm going to be honest, you guys. I'm still not doing too well, man. I'm not doing too well. And I think most of that is just rooted in now, today, concern for my friend, Parker. You know, he's been going through it because of like being there and witnessing that. I've been really concerned for him, and it's been fucking with me a little bit. So I'm gonna go make sure that he's doing all right, and he'll be back in the next couple days. Poor guy. You know, what he was talking about when he joined up, and you know what he was telling me, is that when it happened, he thought it was like a mass shooting. You know, he thought that everyone was about to get it. Poor guy. But yeah, I'm gonna go to an end now. I will see you guys tomorrow. For everyone hanging out with us, have a good rest of your night and take care.